We are weeks away from the New York Islanders going to the 2022 NHL Draft in Montreal and pulling in a new crop of Islanders prospects. So before we think about this new crop of prospects, let's look at the last one, the 2021 draft, and say, was the grade that we gave them fair now that we've seen those players for 1 year? Welcome to Deckhands, my channel about New York Islanders prospects. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single one of my videos. Also, go to Twitter, follow @TLOMitch. That is me. Don't miss any breaking information about Islanders prospects I've yet to cover on the channel. Now, like I said, the point of this video is to go back and look at the 2021 draft class and say, did the grade that we gave the Islanders based off of those selections, was it a fair grade or not? So let's go back and look at those. When it came to the video on the channel, what I said was they got an A, mainly because I didn't want them to go rogue, and rogue they did not go in 2021, right? They took appropriately ranked prospects based off of where they were selecting. Hell, they even took a better prospect than they should have picked up in that second round with Aatu Raty. That was a pick that they weren't supposed to be able to make, and they made it. So to me, that's an A coming right out of the gate. That's before seeing any of these guys now that they're within the Islanders prospect pool. In case you might have forgotten who the Islanders selected in 2021, here's the list. In round 2, 52nd overall, Aatu Raty. In round 3, 93rd overall, Tristan Lennox. Round 4, 125th, Cameron Berg. Round 5, 157th overall, Eetu Liukas. Round 6, 189th overall, Alexei Malin. And round 7, 221st overall, Machu. So that's the group of 6 players the Islanders pulled from their draft class in 2021. Now, how did each one of those players do respectively? And can we bump up their draft grade, if you will, from an A to let's say an A+, or does it actually go down? We start off with Aatu Raty. That's the Islanders' second round pick in 2021. Obviously, you all know that by now. Did he have a better year than we thought he could have, right? Does his 21-22 season merit a bump up, or does that push the Islanders' draft class grade up a bit? Yes. Yes, it does. Look, the entire 21 draft class rests on the shoulders, unfairly, I'd say, on Aatu Raty. Whatever he did this year and going forward will judge or will move the Islanders' overall draft grade up or down. And it definitely goes up because of what Aatu Raty did this year. And look, it started off hot and it went low, right? Before picking up again. He went right out of the gate flying at the World Junior Summer Showcase, popping in goals left, right, and center, putting up points like crazy. And then he came to the Islanders training camp, performed very well, impressed everyone, until returning to Finland, and things just hit a wall, it seemed, right? He went back to Kärpät, and we're like, he's not playing. Even if he is, he's not playing much. And he's not performing. He's not putting up any points. What the hell is going on with this kid? And then a trade happens that changes everything. He goes to Ukraine and pops off. 40 points, 41 games. A dominant two-way center for the second best team in the league. Takes him into the playoffs. Unfortunately, doesn't have the best playoff necessarily, but he's 19 years old. He still did the thing over a larger sample size. So, like, what he did last year won't convince anyone he should have gone number 1 overall, because he shouldn't have, but will definitely convince people like, oh my God, that is definitely a player that should have gone in the first round. If this is the player that is going to be, or if this is the Aatu Raty we're going to see going forward, if he can sustain this, look out, the Islanders just got themselves a top 6 center for free. And so that's why the draft grade immediately goes up. So unless the next couple of guys is going to drag that grade down, the Islanders are going to end up with an A+ grade at the end of this already. Spoiler alert, I suppose. Then we've got Tristan Lennox. That was the goalie picked in the 3rd round. Did he perform better or worse than expected? Is his performance this year going to boost the grade or drag it down? And I'm going to say it's keeping it about average. When you look at his numbers, you're going to say those numbers don't look good though, Mitch. An 888 save percentage and a 320 goals against average. Not great. For the NHL though, when it gets to the OHL, he's still a pretty darn good goalie just when you look at those metrics. And then you have to know the greater context of things, and that's Saginaw were garbage. Sorry, Saginaw, you weren't good, and I'm sure you know that. there's a reason you weren't good. You tanked so you can get Michael Misa, and you got him. So good job. You did what you were supposed to do. But Tristan Lennox was left odd man rushes all the time, left hung to dry by his team. These numbers would be a lot worse for a worse goalie. Tristan Lennox stood on his head all year long, making big save after big save. And obviously, he's not going to stop them all. There's just no goalie will. And so an 888 save percentage and a 320 goals against average for a crappy team is actually pretty impressive. Now, I'm not going to boost the grade up just because of that performance, but I think it treads water because he did what he was supposed to do and still looked good doing it. So, again, they're not going to lose any points from Lennox's performance, but they're also not gaining it, which is okay. From Tristan Lennox, we go to Cameron Berg. That's the 4th round pick for the Islanders. He had an impressive 2021 season where he put up 58 points in 51 games for the Muskegon Lumberjacks as an overager at the USHL level. Now this year, he's going into the NCAA level as a freshman, puts up a really respectable 23 points in 37 games for the University of Omaha, Nebraska. And you're saying, okay, playing center, he played center as a freshman and really charged with a decent level of responsibility. He did pretty darn good. Or, well, pretty darn good. That's not good English. He did pretty darn well. 23 points, 37 games, you'll take that. Of course, there aren't a whole lot of underlying statistics to look at when it comes to the NCAA level, but from what my peepers saw, he was a good impact player for them. He wasn't a leader necessarily, but he's a freshman. You don't expect that. He stood his ground and he did well at that level. Just like Tristan Lennox, definitely trending water when it comes to adding or taking away from the Islanders draft grade last year. From Cameron Berg, we go to Eetu Liukas. That's the 5th round pick from the Islanders. I love this player. He is excellent. And by excellent, I don't mean like he's going to take over the NHL one day. He's very much also just trending water in terms of bumping or lowering the draft grade. What you're picking out of Eetu Liukas is a physical impact player from a depth position. And if he can affect the lineup positively from that role, he's doing his job and doing it well. And that's exactly what he did for TPS last year. 12 points, 48 games with 8 goals. You're going to say not a lot of production. That wasn't his role. His role was 4th line to 3rd line and give us a physical presence, shut down those other guys, get in their head, and add some offense if you can. And he did that. He did exactly that. He was a pest, he was physical, and he put up depth production. And he helped them. Once he got into the lineup more consistently, not only did he get into their 4th line, but he bumped up to the 3rd line, and he helped them start stacking up wins where they went from middle tier to top tier for the Finnish Liiga. And then in the playoffs, he just continued that. 4 goals in 17 games in the playoffs, not great, but he's a 3rd liner. He's a 3rd liner, does an excellent job on the PK, and again adds production. He's not there to lead the line offensively. He's there to add some depth offense and also ramming those guys into the boards constantly. He is a think of Cal Clutterbuck. That's what his job is, and he does it marvelously well. Next year, he's going to have a bigger role as he joins a different team in Saipa, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's going to do next year. But in terms of what he did this year, I would say it edges on at least trending water to maybe even adding a little bit to the Islanders draft class, because they got a really good one here in the 5th round. As much as Eetu Liukas bumps the Islanders draft class grade up, Alexei Malin brings it down by the same amount. And that's not to suggest that he was bad, but he didn't really kind of dominate the U20 level. 17 points in 33 games for Yip at the U20 level all year wasn't really great. It started off really well. He was starting to pile on the points and the minutes, but I think as things started to kind of fall off for Yip, his engagement also started to fall off. From what I've heard with Alexei Malin is that he can get in his own head, and that prevents him from doing the things that he does best. So once he's going to be able to control that, and hopefully he will be, he could be a really, really exciting player for the Islanders prospect pool. But as it stands now, he didn't really have a standout year for Yip's U20 squad. I'm sure in 22-23 he's going to make the jump to the Liga full time, but I was kind of hoping that he'd play well at the U20 level and then maybe get the jump up halfway through the year to play at the legal level full time. That didn't happen just because the performances weren't there for him. So again, as much as Eetu Liukas bumps up the grade, Malin brings it back down a little bit. Final one here, Thomas Machu. That's the 7th round pick, the Czech defenseman who moved from Czech Republic, or Czechia, sorry, into North American hockey in January, I believe. Beginning of January, he made the switch from the Czech League into the USHL, where he was playing with the Youngstown Phantoms, played 34 games, put up 6 points. And you're going to say, well, that's not a whole lot of production. And you're right, 6 points over 34 games is not great. But we have to factor a few things here. He's a defenseman. He's getting used to the North American game. And production isn't necessarily his bread and butter, if you will. What he is a more stable two-way defenseman. And what I mean by two-way is that he balances offense and defense and blends it together. He's not more of one than the other. And maybe just like Matias Rajaniemi, he's going to have to pick a lane eventually. But as it stands now, he's a little bit of both, as he still tries to find out what his game is exactly. Now, he's going to have time to do that as he joins the NCAA ranks with the University of Colorado. So he's going to have time to figure that out. Did he figure it out this year? No. Which is okay. It's a 7th round pick, right? Sometimes, like has been said on my channel before, 7th round picks are 7th round picks, and Thomas Machu is very much that. He's going to be a project, and that's okay. That's what happens with 7th round picks. If the project works out, hey, great. If it doesn't, well, it was a 7th round pick. That's what happens. But do they lose any points necessarily for drafting Thomas Machu instead of someone else? I'm going to say no. His last year was okay. Do they gain anything out of it? No, as well. So the overall grade for the Islanders last year when we first saw the draft class was A. Is it getting any better after we've seen these players for 1 year? Yeah, I'm going to give him an A+ on that. Purely because of Aatu Raty. Purely because of the season he had. If he even had an okay year in Finland where he puts up, like, I don't know, 25 points in 40 games, it's still okay. You'll still take that from a 19-year-old, but it's not kind of like eye-popping as it is now. 40 points in 41 games with Uetu. Of course, he had 1 point in 6 games with Karpov, but we're kind of forgetting that. We're going to toss that aside. The 40 and 41 for Uetu is really what you're looking at going like, holy crap, we've got something here. Combine that with the World Junior Summer Showcase and the Islanders training camp and the fact that he's North America ready already. Let's go. I'm sold. A+ grade from the Islanders draft class based off of the picks they had. I see a lot of other draft class grades that say like, well, C because they didn't have a 1st round pick. Okay, well, like, you can't really knock them for that. Like, things happen. Did they get good value from the picks that they did have? Hell yeah. Hell to the yeah. You don't get a 1st round pick in the later portion or the midway portion of the 2nd round that like the Islanders did with Aatu Raty. They did well last year. The Islanders did, so slow clap to them. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the button. And if I've nagged you enough to do so, or if you've already done it, thank you, thank you, thank you.